So this is going to be my labor and delivery story. I know I'm kind of late on this because Keegan's about to be 3, but better late than never. So if you haven't watched my 16 and pregnant my story video, I really suggest you watch that before this and then come watch this. So yeah, I'll have that link. So I ended that video talking about how they really don't like you going 10 days past your due date, and I went 2 weeks, and this is why. When I first found out I was pregnant, the nurse practitioner that I saw that day said that going by my last menstrual cycle, I was due October 7th. But she wanted to send me for an ultrasound just to be sure, and then when I had the ultrasound, they put me at October 14th. I really didn't care about the days, it didn't matter to me. But then when I had my first appointment with my OBGYN, he said, no, I want to go with October 7th. I know that's at the beginning of my pregnancy, but that part's really important to the story. So my October 7th, that due date was on a Sunday. I had an appointment on Tuesday, and that's when they did the membrane sweep. It's when they go in, they sweep your membranes. It's really uncomfortable. And they said, you will probably go into labor within the next 24 hours. Everybody in my family was also telling me that. Sure enough, I didn't go to the appointment on Thursday, and he was shocked. Like, he couldn't believe that I didn't go into labor yet. So again, another membrane sweep, and they repeated this for another week. And then Tuesday came, and he was like, okay, we are getting that baby out of you. And by this point, he had me doing like all the natural methods to get labor going. So I go back in a week later on Tuesday, and he does another membrane sweep. And he said, if you don't have that baby tonight, then tomorrow morning meet me at the hospital and we will do a non-stress test. And if everything goes good with that, we're going to schedule for an induction. Is that okay? I said, yep, I want this baby out of me. And I said, you promised me by tomorrow I will have my baby. And he said yes. So I became ecstatic. I was like, finally, I'm 41 weeks in 2 days, probably 3 by the time I have this baby. I was so excited. At this time in my life, my anxiety was horrible. Like, it was debilitating. For me to leave my house to go to the hospital, that, like, caused non-stop panic attacks. I had so many panic attacks that night. And I go in, and my doctor isn't there yet, but his midwife student is. And she greets me, and she's like, oh, I saw that on your file that the ultrasound technician put you at a due date of October 14th. Maybe that's why you haven't had your baby yet. And I was like, yeah, but my doctor decided to go with October 7th because we were all so sure about it and blah, blah, blah. It's always been October 7th. And she said, okay, well, I'm going to talk to him about that. So right away, I'm like, no, you are not sending me home. Like, I didn't say this, but I started thinking it. So they did the non-stress test. Keegan passed flying colors. And then my doctor comes in and he's like, yeah, we're going to send you home because that October 14th due date, I'm going to go with that now. And I freaking lost it. Leaving my house to go to the hospital caused me so much anxiety, and I did not want to go through that again just a few days later. I lost it. I was like, no, you're not doing that to me, and I explained my anxiety to them. I said, we're going to do another membrane sweep, and if you don't go into labor, come in on Friday, and then we will do the induction. 2 freaking days later, that's all they wanted to wait. I lost it. I was like, are you kidding me? You're going to make me wait till Friday. I'm already overdue. There's no risk in inducing me right now. Like, I wanted the induction so bad at this point. I did not want to go through the anxiety of having to leave my house again. So I stood up for myself and I said, you know what? You're putting me at risk if you send me home. It's just another 2 days. Why can't we go ahead? They're like, well, induction increases your chances of C-section. And I was like, I really don't care at this point. I said, if my October 7th due date is right, then you are putting me at risk. You are putting me past that 10-day safe mark of being overdue, and you're putting me and my child at more risk. And then I said, you're also putting me at risk because every day, every freaking hour that he is in there, he is gaining more weight. He is at a very good, healthy size right now. It's not like he's underweight. He was right on track. And every day that he gets bigger, there is a higher chance that he is going to get stuck because I'm not that big. I'm a tiny person. I just am. And my doctor was like, well, fine. We'll send you down for an ultrasound, and if that looks good, we'll talk. I said, fine. I can deal with that. We'll just leave it at the ultrasound. If that goes good, we'll talk. That didn't guarantee anything. So I go down for my ultrasound, and sure enough, everything's fine. So then I go back upstairs to the maternity ward, and I find out that my doctor left. He didn't stay around to talk like he promised me. He didn't No, he left. He didn't want to deal with confrontation, so he up and left. I was so mad because he left the nurse's discharge orders for me, so they can't do anything about it. And he left, so I can't even talk to him about it. I was so livid. And this is when I lost all respect for my doctor. So anyways, I go back in Friday, still no baby, no signs of labor, still. I remember thinking to myself, I'm so not going to have a natural labor. I'm nearly 42 weeks, and there is no signs of labor. So they did the non-stress test again, they did the ultrasound again, everything fine. So they're like, okay, we're doing the induction. And I was like, finally. So what they did is this, like, it's induction meds, but it's in the form of a gel. So it causes your body to go into labor, but it's all through medication. So, and as soon as they put the gel in, I was in excruciating pain. Like, the whole 30 hours I was in labor, I never felt a single contraction. It was all in my back. They said my back labor was so bad because, like, Keegan was facing the wrong way. He was head down, but he was just facing the wrong way. Like, he was facing the way that causes back labor. And they said my back labor was probably 10 times worse than, like, the average back labor, because I had a compression fracture to the L5 vertebrae in my spine, and they think, like, it pushing on where the fracture site was, so that's why it was so painful. Nothing would ease the pain. Nothing. Like, nothing at all would ease that pain. I tried the hot tub. The hot tub made it worse. I tried, like, this back massager thing. Didn't work. Tried, like, they would do, like, these, like, a double hip squeeze. That kind of worked. And then I tried the shower. Didn't work. The ball that you can kind of, like, bounce on and stuff didn't work. The only thing that did kind of work was, like, a TENS machine, and I remember it because they've used that in physiotherapy for my back, and that would work, but not long, and I'd have to keep cranking it and cranking it and cranking it up. So finally, after 16 hours of induction, they let me get the epidural, even though they usually like to wait till you're 4 centimeters. They were like, well, when we give you the epidural, we can crank your induction meds. Like, we can crank them up really high. So I said, fine, do it. So they gave me the epidural, and they cranked the induction meds. Like, there's a safe limit, and they put me on above the safe limit. It's not dangerous, but it's the limit they don't like to go above, but they can. And, like, to do that, they had this, like, pressure bag over the IV that had the induction meds, and they were, like, squeezing it to try and get labor started. And sure enough, that didn't work either. And because I have a really complicated rare narcotic allergy, they couldn't give me a normal epidural. A normal epidural has a high mixture of narcotics and then mixture of freezing medication. And because of my rare complicated allergy to narcotics, they couldn't give me a normal epidural. They could only give me the freezing agent, which sucks. It does not do anything for pain. I was in so much pain that night, and the epidural made me so nauseous. Like, I could move around with the epidural, and you're not supposed to be able to. Like, that's how crappy it was. My water finally broke around 8 a.m. the next day, so 24 hours later. They thought, like, maybe finally that will speed up labor, and no, it didn't speed up labor at all. Nothing changed. So then around noon, I started feeling like this huge pressure, and I remember, like, everyone telling me, if you feel that pressure, you need to get your doctor in there as soon as possible, because that usually means, like, you're fully dilated. And I just kept thinking, I can't be fully dilated. Like, I haven't dilated at all in this 30 hours. I can't be. So nurses go out to ask my doctor if he can check me because I'm feeling a lot of pressure, and they just want to make sure. And he's on the phone at the time, and he's like, she's fine, and does that to the nurses, and then continues talking on the phone. I remember just seeing my mom rage. Like, she was so pissed. Nurse finally came in. She's like, Kennedy, do you want us to go ahead and get a team together for a C-section? And I said, I don't know. I don't know if I want. She said, well, you don't have to decide right now. She said, I know that you're in the worst pain of your life and you can't have any pain medication for it, and you're not progressing, so if you want to go ahead with a C-section, that's totally fine. She said, just let me know, because it takes me like an hour to assemble the team, because it's considered emergency, because it wasn't planned. So I said, yeah, go ahead and get the team together, because I don't know if I could take another minute of this. So they wheel me into the operating room, and they have to give me narcotics in this epidural despite my allergy. So they just had my anesthesiologist watch me like a hawk the whole time in case I reacted. And I remember saying, I'm gonna get sick, I need to drink something. And they can't let you drink something when you're on the operating table, obviously. My anesthesiologist gave me a wet cloth just to have kind of in my mouth since she couldn't give me anything else. And that helped so much. Because if I were to puke on the operating table, that's like deadly because it can aspirate into your lungs. And I remember laying there, and they didn't tell me when they were going to start cutting me open or anything, and I just remember hearing them talk about how they're all going to take their horses out on the weekend and how's their barn doing and that kind of stuff. And I guess to someone else that might be like scary because you're like, oh my gosh, they're distracted, but to me it was comforting. I was like, they know their job so well that they can have a normal conversation while doing surgery on me. And that was relaxing to me, thank goodness. And then they're like, okay, get ready, here he comes. And I'm like, you cut me open? Like, I did not feel a thing. I felt like a little bit of pressure, but nothing. I was like, you cut me open? What? So then sure enough, they pop Keegan over and I see him, and he was adorable. He was slimy, but he was cute, and I was just so excited. I was like, finally, he's here. So after 30 hours of over the safe amount of induction medication, being 2 weeks overdue, weighing 7.5 pounds, Keegan was born. Finally. So, little update, my OBGYN that I had for that C-section and for my labor and my whole pregnancy, he lost his license earlier this year. He is never allowed to be a doctor in Ontario again. They suspended, because before you take away someone's license, you have to suspend it, and they build this huge case. Like, it's a pretty big deal. His license got suspended, so he wasn't allowed to practice anymore. Not even a year after Keegan was born, and during that time I heard so many bad stories about him. Like, not even 24 hours after I had my C-section, my fever spiked really high. The nurses were freaking out, and my incision line was really red. They thought I had some really bad infection, and they were pretty scared. And they were calling him saying, you need to come see her, you need to come see her, you need to check her out. He wouldn't answer. So they had to call a different doctor from I don't know where to come check me out. And what you do after you have a baby, you usually have a 6-week postpartum checkup. Just to make sure things are going well, you're recovering well, baby's doing well, all that kind of thing. So I show up to my 6-week postpartum appointment. He's not there. Hospital hasn't seen him. His receptionist can't get a hold of him. And we've been waiting for over an hour. And I say, he's avoiding me. I said that to my mom, and she's like, no. You're like, don't be ridiculous. He's probably just got tied up. And I said, he's avoiding me. So we rebooked the appointment for a week later, come back, same thing. Not answering the hospital, not answering the receptionist, no one's seen or heard from him, and he's missed all these appointments. And I looked at Mom, I'm like, he's avoiding us. She's like, you're right, he is. I haven't seen him since the C-section. Like, I haven't seen him since he was cutting me open. After I read the court papers of all the cases against him, and there was like, I think there's 36 cases against him, and those were the worst cases. That's not considering like cases like mine that were minor, or other people's cases that they didn't pull. They just randomly selected people. I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, I am so lucky at how my delivery ended, because reading everything that happened, I was like, oh my gosh, because I got a hold of the court papers. They are in detail. They're disturbing. Anyways, that's it for my labor and delivery story. So it kind of ended on like a dark note. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you later.